welcome back. I'm Courtney and this is The Accounting Struggle, where we speak about our struggles with accounting openly and honestly. We do not run from them. And today's video is going to be all about choosing between audit and tax. So first of all, if you are new here, welcome. Glad to have you. Take a seat, get comfortable. If you like today's video, of course, be sure to give it a thumbs up. If you haven't already, please do subscribe. And if you are returning, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate you. We're finally at 1,000 subscribers and basically I'm famous now and it's amazing. So I kid. But anyway, so today we're going to be talking about choosing between audit and tax. The reason I wanted to make this video is because it's heavy recruiting season now. So recruiters will be approaching you. You will be approaching recruiters. You'll be going to all of these conferences and getting in front of these employers. And a lot of times the questions that's going to be asked is, do you want to work in audit or tax? Especially if you're approaching public accounting firms. The reason why I'm going straight into this, I have a ton of videos on other career options, but as I've said in many other videos, I feel like starting in public accounting is like just the golden standard. It's such a great career starter, even if you don't necessarily know that you want to work in public accounting for an extended period of time. I feel like there's no greater start just because you get so much exposure to so many different things. So I always will support that as a great place to start in your career. Of course, if you already know you want to go straight into something else, then do that. But if you are going to be looking for a job in public accounting and you're trying to decide which one is a better fit for you, how do you know if you'll go into tax or audit? Keep watching, because I know when I initially started, I thought I would want to be an auditor. Boy, was I wrong. So yeah. So a few notable differences between audit and tax. I'll start with what does each one do. So an auditor is responsible for providing assurance over the financial statements. So they are basically looking to make sure a company's financial statements are presented fairly in all material respects. And so basically they're just out here combing through your stuff, making sure you're not fraudulent and lying. So that's pretty much like the main gist of what an auditor's job is. That's the goal of what an auditor does. So a tax accountant is going to be responsible for preparing taxes, planning for taxes, strategizing. They're working with individuals as well as businesses to just create a plan for, one, paying the least amount of tax possible within the law, of course, and just to help companies also to expand through these strategies that they use for taxes. So that's kind of the gist of what both are doing, and that's very much a short story. There's obviously so much more that I could say to expand on that, but that's the gist. So when I was in college, I just thought the lifestyle of an auditor was very fabulous, and I thought, well, I'm fabulous, so that just makes sense. Surely that's the career that I should want. But when I got a chance to actually sit in and do my first audit, it wasn't necessarily like an internship. It was an internship that I was doing, but I got a little bit of exposure to audit, maybe a couple of weeks where I was doing some shadowing, and I was like, I'm not excited about this. I don't love this. And then when I took my first audit class, although I loved my audit professor, she was amazing, everything sounded incredibly juicy. There was fraud, there was so much scheming and all types of mess, and it was very interesting. However, that's not really the real world. Like, you don't want those types of clients who are going to be scheming and having mess. That's number one. And also, it was really hard for me to connect to the concept of materiality and things being not black and white. Just didn't fit my personality at all. So all that to say, it wasn't until I actually got into the coursework and into a little bit of the practical side and exposure to that before I decided what area I wanted to be in. So a couple of things you want to be looking for. Let me just go over, and as an auditor, some of the things that you'll be doing as your day-to-day task. So in terms of the work, an auditor's work is going to most closely model some of your classes. Like if you have already started your coursework in accounting, you've taken intermediate. At my school, there was intermediate 1, 2, and 3, but some schools it's just broken out into 2 sections. So it's going to be a lot of that financial accounting and reporting, everything that you would see on the FAR exam, everything that you would see obviously on the audit exam for the CPA. Those all of that subject matter. So things like adjusting journal entries, revenue recognition, a lot of that kind of stuff that you saw in your coursework. If you hated those courses and you were like, oh my God, I barely made it out, don't know how I got through that, audit might not be your jam, because that is the kind of stuff you're going to be working on. You really will have to get to know those concepts. And if you don't love accounting journal entries, then, or if you really struggle conceptually with the journal entry portion, then that is something that maybe isn't the best if you're going to go into audit, because that is a lot of what they're going to be doing. Of course, this can vary depending on what area of audit you're working in, but if you're starting out in public accounting, you will see a lot of the coursework that you're going to be doing is going to be closely related to those subjects. So everything that goes back to the basic financial statements. So you're basically putting together the financial statements. So you'll also be doing things like walkthroughs with clients. So you might go to a client base and you'll have them walk you through some of what their procedures are so that you can get a feel for it. And then you might have to do testing on those procedures, testing of their controls, reperforming some of their procedures and some of their controls that they perform, just to make sure that everything is what it's supposed to be. You'll also be doing a lot of sampling. All of that kind of stuff will depend on the type of client and the scope of the work that you have to do. But these are some of the duties that you might find in audit. If that's the kind of stuff you really enjoyed in school and you wanted more exposure to that, audit would probably be a good fit for you. So what a tax accountant is going to be doing is tax preparing and tax planning. Some of the duties will include things like, when you get a client's work, you may have to do a little bit of write-up work on their books just to prepare them before they go into the tax return. So you may need to do some adjusting journal entries. You are probably going to have to prepare, a tax trial balance and that kind of thing. You can be doing things like fixed asset schedule management. So if a client has new assets that they've purchased or things that they've disposed of, you will go in and manage all of the changes and the activity on that. Tax planning and tax estimates. So if a client, say we're out of busy season and now they're just looking to, it's usually very much in the last quarter. So this is about that time where people are doing a lot of tax planning to prepare for the upcoming tax year. So you'll be doing things like preparing estimates. So those are some of the duties that you'll see in tax. A lot of the skill sets that you'll see for both will be overlapped. So for either one of these roles that you go into, and this is really just an accounting thing, you will need to be detail oriented. So for either one that you choose, you really want to be someone who can look at fine details and they just kind of jump off of the page at you. That will, if you have that kind of skill, you're going to go far in life, because that's going to be major. Time management is also going to be very important, because during busy season, you're going to need some stamina too. Let's just throw that in there. During busy season, you're going to work extended hours. I talk at length about this throughout all the videos on my channel. But public accounting, whether you're in audit or tax, you are going to be working during busy season. And the time frame for busy season in audit starts a little sooner and ends a little sooner than it does in tax. So in audit, busy season ramps up around, I think, December, and then usually by March things are settled down a little bit. So in tax, you'll start to get busy around the end of January, and then that'll go on until April 15th, and then things will pick up again in the fall around October, September, when it's time for you to finish all the returns that you just put off to the side. So that's kind of what the busy season will look like, but either way, it's going to be very busy. You're going to be working a lot of hours, and you will already need to be mentally prepared for that. So going into audit as opposed to tax, or tax as opposed to audit, it won't matter. If you're going into public accounting, these are kind of just the hours that you're going to be working. So let's talk a little bit about audit and some of the skills that you will need specific to audit. So some of the things that will really work well for you, if you have professional skepticism, if you are someone who is always like, I don't know, but how did you get that answer? How do you know that? Well, what proof do you have? If you're that person who never takes anything at face value, sounds like you're an auditor. Sounds like you'd be great for the job. When can you start? That is the type of attitude that you really need to have when you're working in audit. You can't really take anything for just what it is. You have to really be able to think critically about how'd you arrive at that answer. And it's not about being suspicious, but professional skepticism is huge. I mean, it's a very big deal in audit. So being detail oriented is also very, very important. I would say that's across the board in accounting, but in audit, that is a skill that is going to be critical. You also want to have very good research skills. There are always going to be updates. There are always going to be new accounting guidance that will come out, and you need to be able to research, and not only research, but interpret what you've researched. So these are skills that are going to overlap between tax and audit. Interpretive skills and research skills are things that you will really, really need to understand. Laws do not stay laws forever. Nothing is permanent in accounting. Things are always developing. Things are always coming out. So you'll want to be someone who can easily read something, a new law, a new piece of legislation, or a new accounting procedure that comes up, and you'll really need to be able to understand what it's saying. For audit, you will have to do some writing. So if you're getting into accounting because you think, well, I hate English, I hate writing, I hate that stuff, then yeah, that's not going to work. You're going to be writing. You're going to be writing a lot. There's all types of writing that goes on in audit. You will not only be writing memos, but you'll be having to do a lot of documentation. So that brings me to the next point. You need to have strong documentation skills. It's one thing to be able to know how you arrived at your answer, but auditing is all about leaving a trail. It's about finding the trail, and it's also about being able to leave your own trail for other people who are reviewing your work. This is something that people in accounting in general really look for, but auditing, you won't be able to survive without good documentation skills. People need to be able to come behind you, an independent source should be able to come behind you and verify every step that you took in your work. Another important skill for audit is you really want to be able to have good or strong interpersonal skills. You'll be client facing pretty much from the beginning. So this in audit, one of the notable differences between audit and tax is with audit and public accounting, you go straight into the field. You're not 2 or 3 years in, you're not a senior or manager before you start getting in front of clients. You're getting in front of clients almost immediately. So auditors tend to dress a little better for that reason, but you're in the field immediately, so you do need to have some strong interpersonal skills. It is a big misconception that if you go into audit you have to be super outgoing and very bubbly. That's not true at all. You can absolutely be an introvert and be very good at your job as an auditor. However, you do need to be able to interact with one another or interact with clients, have a very strong set of professional skills and communication skills, and even some presentation skills. You want to have some poise about you. You want to be able to give the girls a little something when you're presenting. Yes, here's your financial statements. Hi, yes, that. You want to have some of that going on when you're working in audit, because this is not someone you're just emailing. You will actually be in front of them. So you'll need to be able to speak in a way that is easy to understand and have just really good, I think y'all get it. Yeah. So interpersonal skills are going to be huge for audit. So when we're thinking about tax, again, a lot of these skills will overlap. You still need to be detail oriented, and you still need to have strong communication and research skills. Analytical skills are also going to be really important for both, because you're analyzing, well, what changed year over year, month over month. These are the things you're looking for both in audit and in tax. Some of the things that you really want to be good at with tax: prioritizing, being able to shift and be very agile in your work, being able to go from one task to the next. You will find that during busy season, you might be working on, 10 clients at once, and you're like, okay, well, I still need this K1 from this client before I can move on, so I'm just gonna have to switch and pivot here. Or this client's calling today, so I have to finish this today. You're gonna have to be able to be flexible and be someone who knows how to really, really shift your work around and how to manage your time effectively. Both in audit and tax, a lot of the projects, or all of the projects, you'll be given a budget of, okay, you need to do this in 2 hours or 3 hours or 20 hours, however long it takes. But in order to be good at that and to complete the work within the budget that's allotted, then you really need to have strong time management skills. So you need to be able to assess how much work has to be done in a certain time. Although initially in your career, you're not going to be the one setting the budget, but you need to be able to determine where you are in in this project and how much time. Okay, I'm halfway. Am I halfway through the work? Do I have way more than halfway to go? You know, these are things that you really need to be able to do well, and being able to prioritize is going to be the biggest thing. In tax, things are going to change very quickly. Hey, I got this client on the phone and they're asking when the return is going to be done. What time? Can you send me an email and let me know what time? Partners are going to send you that kind of stuff, and you really need to be able to just go through those really swiftly and just stay on top of your work in a certain time frame. You will still need good communication skills, but in tax, so these are going to be more written than oral communication skills. Obviously, it'd be great if you have both, but you're really going to be in audit. You definitely need strong oral communication skills, because you'll be speaking directly with your clients, you'll be in meetings with them, and in tax, you'll be doing a lot of emailing or speaking with them maybe over the phone. So you'll need to have some strong written communication skills. There's kind of an art to writing emails. That probably could be a video in and of itself when it comes to keeping things very concise. As time goes on, I'm learning that all of that whole, hey, hope you had a great weekend thing, all of the fluff that comes in the form of the email before you get started, some clients don't like that, and they just want you to get straight to the point. Girl, what do you want from me? Because this is the second time you've emailed me. What else you need before you can tell me how much money I'm going to be paying to the IRS? You know, so you'll learn as you go. So you want to be making sure that you have very strong communication skills, that you're able to be very clear, you're able to be very concise with your messaging, and of course still keeping it professional. So if you're trying to figure out which one you think you would best fit into, you kind of have an idea about the work. You look at your schoolwork, look at your courses, you have an idea about the type of skills that you will need. But what it really is going to come down to, the determining factor is going to be personality. Skills are transferable. So, I mean, if you maybe are lacking in one skill, this is something that you can work on if you really want to work in a certain area. But to determine where you will be most satisfied between tax and audit is really going to come down to personality. So a couple of things you'll want to consider. An auditor is someone who is going to be traveling a lot for work. You will not be coming in the office and sitting in your desk with your things over and over and over again. That's not how it works. Now that we're in COVID, if you're watching this in 2020, obviously everyone's working from home. But in a normal setting, you're traveling, so you're going to the client. You may not always have a luxurious client. I mean, I know that auditors, there's this idea about the lifestyle. It's like, oh, I'm going to Paris next week, or I'm going to Rome, or I'm going to be in the Bahamas for a client. That's great, and that does happen. I have a friend, Courtney, who's an auditor, and she traveled the world, and her life was amazing and very Pinteresty, and it was beautiful. But that's not every single client. And of course, she works for the Big Four. I mean, sometimes your client is local. Sometimes it's not glamorous. Sometimes it's like a factory up the street, and you're just like in the janitor's closet, and that's where you're going to be working. So it's not always going to be glamorous, but just know you will be in the field. That is going to be where a lot of your time is going to be spent. And also, you could be on an assignment for several months. You could be in, I don't know, Wichita, and the only person you know in this whole town is the one person that you are on this assignment with. So if you don't like them, I mean, they're the only person you know, so I guess you like them now. So that is something to consider. But don't get me wrong, people who love audit love audit. That's not to deter you. I'm just, you know. So as an auditor, it can be a little difficult to plan out, you know, months in ahead. You maybe don't know where you're going to be assigned for your work. So if you have like some upcoming wedding or something like that, these are the types of things that you're going to have to consider. So your schedule is going to be more spontaneous. It's not like the week of, but you know, things can change quickly. It's going to be based on client need and where which clients you're going to be working on. So again, I want to be very clear that to be an auditor and to be successful at auditing, it's not a requirement that you be super outgoing and bubbly and like a people person or extroverted. That's just not true. You don't have to be those things. You can be introverted, you can be a little shy, you can be all of these things and still be very great at your job. You just have to have strong communication skills when you're on the job, when you're at these events, when you're in these client meetings. You just need to be able to communicate in a meaningful way, but it's not like a requirement that you be fun. Although most auditors probably are, but it's not a requirement. You can be boring and drab and still be an auditor. Audit and tax have very similar pay. There isn't really a whole lot of difference in pay as far as starting salary when you're going into public accounting roles. There may be a small differential, but it's not really anything that I feel is worth mentioning. And as you go up in your career, that's when you'll start to see the pay differences. One thing that I think, if you're really not sure about what type of career you want to have, but you know it's not tax, you don't know what you want to do, but you're just like, not tax, not me, girl, then audit is a fantastic place to start your career, because it can lead into so many other accounting careers. And those skills that you learn in audit are going to be so much more easily transferable. Tax is very specific, which we'll get into in a second, but in audit, learning the basic skills of auditing are going to easily go into other roles. Any other roles that you go into, anything that you've learned in audit is going to serve as a really strong basis for your other careers. So if you're really not sure where you want to start, audit is a great start. As long as you're like, I know it's not tax. Don't know what it is, but I know it's not tax. Then yes, audit is a fantastic start for you. So for personality traits with tax, again, you don't have to be some boring nerd who doesn't like fun. That is such a misconception. I don't know who started that. It was an auditor probably, because tax people are very fun. I'm a tax person. So like, tax people are fun. So the point is, you definitely are going to have more of a stable workflow. Your work schedule, your work day is going to look a little bit more predictable in tax. So if you are someone who prefers repetition, you have like a routine, you like to go where your things are, and this is your desk, and you sit here every day, you're not hoteling or sharing this space with some other random people, you kind of are more head down. Even though you're working on teams, it's a little bit more independent in the work that you're doing, so you aren't necessarily working in groups, whereas in audit, in your own projects, it might be more group oriented. In tax, it's a little bit more individualistic. Of course, you're still collaborating with others, but not in the same way. So the work in audit, things are just a little bit more subjective. There's the concept of materialities, is obviously huge. That's like a big concept for audit. That doesn't exist in tax. There is no materiality. Everything is material pretty much in tax. There are different things that you'll have to adjust based on which client you're dealing with. The concept of materiality is going to be something that is case by case. So with that, I couldn't wrap my head around it. I didn't understand how I could what do you mean there's millions of dollars that we just can't account for, and we don't. It's close enough? Are you sure? But it's 5% off. That 5% is like $500 million. Why don't we care? So it really is just going to be something that is less black and white. It's not necessarily going to be like subsection A.23b says that if it's this much, you do this. Whereas in tax, things are so much more black and white. There are definitely things that are gray areas. I promise you that. However, the tax code is written in such a way where there are thresholds that are clear and plainly spelled out. If it exceeds $25,000, you do this. If it exceeds $75,000 of AGI, we're doing this. So it's a lot less. So there really isn't a concept of materiality that has to be used in tax. So if you're someone who really, really prefers for things to be black and white, for things to be a little bit more clear cut, again, don't want to steer you wrong. Of course, with the new tax regulation, there's so much that is, a gray area. It's not like everything is always going to be an easy answer, but in tax, there's a lot more guidance that is very straightforward, that is very clear, that will leave less room for interpretation. And whereas in audit, there's a lot more of like, let's think about that. Okay, let's consider what is the fact pattern and what makes sense. If that's your way of thinking, if that's kind of how you problem solve in general, then audit is going to be a great fit for you. If you're someone who's like, well, what's the rule though? If you're someone who prefers things to be very clear cut and more straightforward, the law is already laid out for you, then tax might be your jam. I'm a person who's like a little bit more straightforward, so that's why tax I feel like was a great connection for me, but it really will depend on your personality type. And then if you like to be right here with the client, you like to be meeting with them, you like that up close interaction, you like presenting, you like being in the room and at the table, and that's kind of your style, and you prefer that level of interaction, then audit is probably going to be a better fit for you. If you are someone who is like, okay, give me the information, I'll get back to you and we'll just talk about it then tax might be a better fit for you. It's no one way or the other. You really won't know until you get in it and you start doing it and you decide, I don't like either one of these. But those are some things to look for. So if you're, in terms of your coursework, if you're still in school and you're taking audit, you're taking intermediate classes, and you really like that work, you really enjoy that work, that's the stuff that speaks to your spirit, audit's probably going to be your thing. You hated your tax classes, yeah. If you don't enjoy the class, probably not going to enjoy the work. Now, in public accounting, a lot of the clients are clients of both tax and audit. So you will probably see some overlap. You'll probably be working. I know when I was in public accounting, I was working on clients who were also audited by us. So by the time we got the audited financial statements, I still got to work in those financial statements. I still got to kind of go through them, although I wasn't the one who prepared them. It was nice to still be able to have that exposure. You still collaborate with auditors, and so it's not like you just go on one side and the other people go on the other side, although that's usually how the office is set up, and you just never talk and there's no interaction between the two of you. That's not typically how it goes. You will still have an opportunity to collaborate and work with each other, and a lot of firms will give you the opportunity that if you get into a field and you're in, you spend a year in tax and you're like, this is not me, and you want to give audit a try, a lot of firms will give you that chance to make the change, make the transition, and vice versa. Tax is very specific. Not to say that once you go into tax, you have to stay there forever. But the longer you stay in tax, the further you go into your career, the more specialized your knowledge is, the more useful it is. However, if you are 10 years into your tax career and you decide that you want something else, those skills are so specific to tax that they don't just easily transfer into other roles. So that is something to consider. I'm not saying you can't leave. I left tax. I work as an investment accountant now, but I still do taxes. But the point is, I left public accounting and I'm now working as an investment accountant, but I was only a couple of years into my career. If you stay in tax for years and years and years, you're going to be like a guru. You're going to have so much tax knowledge, and it is so worth it if that's what you want to stay in. But if you leave, it is going to be harder for those skills to just easily transfer into another role. Whereas with audit, those are some great skills that are easily transferable into other roles. So just something to consider. Whichever one you choose, just know public accounting is so much fun. There are fun people and boring people in both audit and tax. So you don't have to be fun for one and boring for the other, because that's just, I don't know who made that up, but it's just not true. Either way, you're going to work very long hours. Whether you choose audit or tax, busy season is still going to hit you like a ton of bricks. So just prepare for that. It's going to be so much fun. You're going to hate it, but you're going to love it at the same time. And if you don't have some of the skills that I mentioned for one role or for the other, but you're like, oh man, I don't have those skills, but I really want to work in that. But do I have to present to people? Or do I have to talk to clients? That's so scary. Those are things that you can work on. Those are skills that you can develop. So don't let that discourage you. If you are someone who knows you really want to be an audit, but you're like, oh, I got to talk to people, you can overcome that. There's a lot of ways you can do that. Look it up. It's all over the internet. And yeah, if you want to travel on the company's dime after COVID, then audit is going to be a great place to do that. But just know, you're not always going somewhere glamorous. You're not always going to be spending a week in Spain. It may be spending a week at the local elementary school. So just keep that in mind when you choose your career. Don't choose just based solely on the travel piece. a couple of people that I think you should follow if you are interested in a career in audit. I follow a lot of accounting people on like social media, and one of my favorite accounting YouTubers, Stephanie Mills, I believe. I'll link her information in the description box. She's an auditor. She has a ton of videos on her channel. There's also Nicole, and I will link Nicole and Stephanie and Alexa. I will link their information in the description below if you are interested in seeing more content on that, because I don't speak a lot about audit because I don't work in audit, so I don't really know that much about it other than what I've just told you. So look for their information in the description box if you want to be able to see more of that type of content. And if you are interested in more tax, stay here. I don't know any other tax people, but I'm here, so just, you know, this works. So that was all that I had for today. If you found this video to be helpful, of course, be sure and give it a thumbs up. If you would like to see more of this type of content, I will do a series since we are in the thick of recruiting season. It's about to be like out of this world fast. It's gonna go so fast. If it's your last year of school and you're like still trying to scramble to find to land a job, or if you're looking for an internship, this is the time to do it. So I can do more of these types of videos. Just let me know in the comments what you would like to see. And yeah, thank you guys so much for subscribing. We made it to 1,000 subscribers. I'm so excited. The accounting struggle is growing and glowing, and it's amazing. So I'm going to be doing a giveaway. I will leave the rules to the giveaway in the description, but you basically just need to be following me on Instagram, Twitter, and right on here you need to be subscribed on YouTube. So yeah, that's it. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.